Welcome to this tour of the Pine Grove Cemetery. This is our last walking tour of the season. We thank you all for coming. We have a great turnout. I hope you all enjoy the program today. My name is Jeff Barraclough. I am the Director of Operations for the Manchester Historic Association. I would also like to introduce to you some of our trustees who are here today. Dick Duckoff, who is also one of the tour leaders, is here. Gail York, who will also be assisting with the tour, and Jeff Murdoch is one of our trustees. And also joining us today is Ed Doyle from Central High School, who will be helping with some music accompaniment. And where's John?
John's over there.
And John Jordan, who is one of our tour leaders as well. Before we get started, I just want to give a quick introduction about the Historic Association. I know several of you are not members. If you're interested in joining, please see either myself or Gail afterwards. We have some membership brochures, and we'd love to have you join us for our activities and other events that we do throughout the year. We have two facilities that we operate here in Manchester. One is the Mill Yard Museum down in the Amoskeag Mill Yard. It is, those of you who have not been, we would encourage you to come. We're open Tuesday through Saturday. And it's a museum all about the history of Manchester, and especially the history of the mill yard and the industry that went on and continues to go on there. And we also have our research library on Amherst Street. That is open Wednesdays and Saturdays, and if you're interested in coming in to do research on your family, on your home, on a business, we have information there that could certainly be beneficial to you. So without further ado, again, thank you all for coming, and I'm going to turn this over to Dick.
Yes. I'm glad to see so many people here. Beautiful day. And what we're going to do, just to give you a little bit of the game plan here, is that the black car that says Jordan in the back of it will lead a caravan to where we are going to park. We couldn't give directions because everybody would wind up in different sections of the cemetery. So he's going to lead a caravan to where we're going to park. Once you see him stop and park around where his car is. Then we're going to have a short walk to the beginning of the tour. At the very end of the tour, we're going to be able to direct you and say, you simply walk down this road, and when you get to the end of it, take a right and you'll see your cars. That was the game plan. Because as you know, we're visiting sites that are scattered. They didn't bury people having in mind that there would be a tour about a century later. So we're just sort of subject to the way it was done, and so that's why the tour seems a little zigzagged at times. But thank you all for coming, and now if we could just repair to everybody's automobiles, we can start that caravan. Thank you. We're here at the first gravesite of the Stewart family. The importance of the Stewart family to the history of Manchester can't possibly be overstated. Thompson, Daniel, and Ellen Stewart are the reasons we have the Queen City Bridge today. It took their tragic drownings on February 10, 1920, to move the city in that direction. But the story behind the story has to be told. Here's the background to their drowning and the building of the Queen City Bridge. What happened was that the McKellan Shoe Factory, which is where Hesse College, we remember them on the Queen City Bridge, those were shoe factories. And people living on the west side of the Merrimack River had to get to those shoe factories. It didn't make sense, if you think of it, when there was no bridge there, for them to walk the entire way to the Grand Street Bridge, go up to Elm Street, then walk southerly all the way down Elm Street, and then over the Queen City Avenue to get to the shoe factory, when they could see the bridges right across the river. So what they had been doing was to go to the railroad trestle, the one that went to the North Wear. It's now known as Hands Across the Merrimack. You may remember that the late Helen Clausen raised money for that. That was the trestle bridge. In its day, however, people on the west side walked over that bridge until the railroad put an end to it, saying it was too dangerous. People continued to do it. They were arrested. Some of them were jailed. And so people resorted to coming across the river in rowboats. 400 a day were crossing the river in rowboats, and when the Stewart family crossed, it was wintertime. There was ice. They would try to work their way across with poles in the ice, but one day the gate of the the gate of the Amherst Mills was opened up, water came rushing down, it broke up the ice, and eventually it surrounded the boat, and a chunk of ice ripped through the side of the boat, and that resulted in the drownings. The ones that passed away worked at the McCowan Shoe Factory on the east side of the river, and they lived at 577 South Main Street on the west side. This morning I looked that up. That's right near Harville Street, the street that goes from South Main Street down to 2nd Street. If you were going to go to where Burger King now is, that would be the street. But that street was not cut out yet in those years, so they had to walk all the way down South Main Street to Frederick Street or West Hancock Street, go down to where West Hancock Street would in those days have gone all the way to the river. That was the quickest way, and then they took a rowboat. So that's where they lived. And 25 boats were used to ferry employees across the river each day, but the article goes on to say that as many as 400 were going on some days. Protests had been going on for years that a bridge should be built in that vicinity, but all to no avail. On February 24, 1917, a petition was even handed to Mayor Spaulding asking for a bridge. A footbridge was even talked about in December of 1917, but it was set aside by the aldermen who left it to the next administration, an editorial in the Manchester Union newspaper said. A few days after the tragedy, it used the following words: the first words that sprang unbidden to every lip was bridge. Bridge. There was no bridge. A bridge had to be built. The following memorial poems to the Stewart family were written by George Clark, a close personal friend of the family, 1 month after their deaths.
I'm going to read those poems to you right now. This was written for Ellen. Evening shadows have fallen. Light now the path, dear Lord. Lift us out of the darkness, ever to honor thy word. Now in the hour of sorrow, favor us, Lord, with thy love. Smile on us with thy countenance. Teach us of heaven above. Everyone there will be joyful, worshiping Jesus' sweet name, always bowing before him, remembering his cross in pain. To him be all the glory, he soon will come again. And now this one was written for Daniel. Do not be worried, beloved ones, as you think upon our state. Nothing will ever harm us inside the golden gates. Everyone here is happy. Let not your hearts be sad, for we are waiting to meet you, saved and made while by the blood. Trust him now as your Savior. Every day praise his name. Wait for his glorious appearing as he is coming soon again. Receive him now and be ready to dwell in glory with him. And this was written for Thompson. Take care, dear father and mother, how you live in the coming years. Only the saved ones are happy midst darkness, trials, and fears. Settle the question forever of where you intend to be, near to the blessed Savior, saved through eternity. Trust him now and live daily, ever sounding his praise, waiting his glorious appearing, always abounding in grace, ready whenever he may call thee to enter his glorious place. Thank you.
This tragedy could have been prevented. When the McElwain Company built the factory, they offered to build a footbridge across the Merrimack River and maintain it. The board of mayor and aldermen sat on it and never acted. him for me.
Just at my feet is the headstone of one Emmett, E-M-M-E-T-T, Emmett Duffy. That's all he has, just a headstone. But Emmett Duffy was one of the most prolific songwriters in Manchester history. It's estimated that he wrote as many as 40 songs, most about Manchester topics, among them Spruce Street, dear old Spruce Street. When Carrie Nation came to Massabesic Lake was the second one. When the Amoskeag has stopped was another. The Dinner Pail Girl was still another. And we're way ahead of Concord yet. Then there was St. Patrick's Day Parade. And when McFadden learned to dance. And this one, since Dinny learned how to box. And when Mulrooney learned to ride a bike. And Eileen, my own Irish queen, and many, many other songs. Mr. Duffy was a strong supporter of the women's suffrage movement. He wrote a number of poems dedicated to it. Among them, How About Votes for Ladies? And Dear Little Sweet Little Voices. The song we will recite today is Down to Pine Island Park. There's no music that we can find, but this is a pretty important song because it says a lot about Pine Island Park. It was written in 1906 about what was a very popular amusement park in the Goss Falls sections of Manchester. Maybe many of you visited it in later years. Down to Pine Island Park. A stranger in town came wandering down on Elm Street one Sunday, they say. He met a vast throng, could scarce move along. At Amherst Street they barred his way. He cried, "What's amiss? What riot is this?" A bystander twisting around said, "Don't be dismayed, alarmed, or afraid. It's only a crowd that is bound. Down to Pine Island Park, that's the place to go for a lark. There is no fear you'll pine for a veer, or miss Old Orchard when Pine Island is near. Is it swell? Well, I should remark, grand by day, the same after dark. Old Coney Island is beaten by a mile down at Pine Island Park. It's often been said you've wheels in your head, but if you want wheels on your feet, at Pine Island Rink, you'll find them, I think. With soda quite near for a treat, a pointer for you, just take in the zoo, the greatest since Noah's old ark. The beach is quite near, you'll bathe without fear of making a meal for a shark." And that has been reproduced just as it appeared in the newspaper in 1906.
Right now we're doing some research on Pine Island Park, and hopefully within a year we might have a history of the park, hopefully.
We are standing at the gravesite of William Swallow. On June 1st, 1928, the Amoskeag Manufacturing Company announced that it was seeking its own song to glorify its long history, and a contest winner would be held with prizes for being given to the winner. Finally, on September 27th, 1928, the contest winner was finally announced. William Swallow, the superintendent of employee services for the company, and a state senator as well. He was actually considered to be a dark horse in the contest, but he came out with a winning song, and the name of the song was Amoskeag, Old Amoskeag. And it's going to be sung for you today by Ed Doyle. Ed, you want to just get in here? Hold on. Hold this up to your lips.
Do you want
Test.
Okay.
Thou wert so rich and strong of yore, Amoskeag, old Amoskeag, thy size the world ne'er saw before. Amoskeag, old Amoskeag, thy trademark emblem of the best, thy fabric spread from east to west, thy spindles whirled with ne'er a rest. Amoskeag, old Amoskeag, through all the years thy name has stood. Amoskeag, old Amoskeag, for honest worth and nation's good. Amoskeag, old Amoskeag, when threatening storms and foes arise, to dim thy splendor, dwarf thy size, thy stalwarts will not yield the prize. Amoskeag, old Amoskeag, the breaking dawn reveals the way. Amoskeag, old Amoskeag, cooperation wins the day. Amoskeag, old Amoskeag, thy sons and daughters with their might will keep thine emblem ever bright. Success and fame are thine by right. Amoskeag, old Amoskeag.
Very, very good. Thank you. We are standing at the gravesite of Fred Heckler, who was the proud owner of Heckler's Grocery Store on Douglas Street. Until Prohibition in 1919, it was a beer parlor in the back of the Fire King Engine House on Main Street, right next to the West Side Library. It specialized in German delicatessen food. But Fred Heckler, born in 1886, was famous for 27 years as the conductor of Heckler's singing orchestra. He started the orchestra at about 1904 at the age of 18. He was the conductor, the leading vocalist, and the pianist. Obviously a busy man, he did not shirk his civic duty, being both a fire commissioner and alderman in Ward 10 for several years. His daughter Anne is still very much alive today and is in her 90s. The Heckler name lives on as she was a major donor in the fundraising drive for the Heckler Hastings Bandstand at Stark Park in 1909. 2009, excuse me. We will now hear Waltz Me Around in Arcadia. It was composed to commemorate the grand opening of the Arcadia Ballroom in 1914. The ballroom was near Lake Massabesic. We are now going to hear Waltz Me Around in Arcadia, sung by Ed Doyle.
On a warm summer night, when the moon shines so bright, and you're out with your sweet baby mine, from the city you turn, with its pavements that burn, to a spot that seems almost divine. Then a trolley you take, and go out to the lake, where the music is certainly grand. In Arcadia, it's great, you can hesitate to that tune of that beautiful band. Waltz me around in Arcadia, sweetheart mine. The bright lights and music are calling, for it's summertime. The pines by the lakeside are sighing, the whippoorwill sings from afar. So get in the whirl with a beautiful girl in Arcadia.
Thank you. At the gravesite of Betty George. Betty George was born in Manchester to Greek immigrant parents and went on to a singing career that made her famous. She was called the Greek Goddess of Song and began her career in 1945 as a soloist for the Glen Gray Orchestra singing at Pine Island Park. In 1947, she was singing at the Copacabana nightclub in New York City for the Xavier Cugat Orchestra. Later, she sang at the Waldorf Astoria in New York City and the Frolics in Miami Beach. In 1948, she appeared on Broadway in the plays Heaven on Earth and Anchors Aweigh. Walter Winchell, the famous newspaper columnist, called her, quote, one of the 10 most beautiful women alive, end quote. Her personal friends included Carmen Miranda, Frank Sinatra, Burl Ives, Tony Bennett, Al Hirt, Buddy Hackett, and Liberace. We are going to sing for you today, Let There Be Love. One music critic, Robert Dana, after her singing at the Latin Quarter in New York said, when you hear Betty George sing, Let There Be Love, you will agree that there couldn't be a more influential spokesman on a subject of such importance. We are now going to hear Ed Doyle sing, Let There Be Love.
I didn't know that about Mary George. All right, need snapping. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let there be you, and let there be me. Let there be oysters under the sea. Let there be winds and an occasional rain. Chili con carne and sparkling champagne. Let there be birds to sing in the trees. Someone to bless me whenever I sneeze. Let there be cuckoos, a lark and a dove. But first of all, please, let there be love.
Excellent. Excellent. I'm standing here at the Hunt Monument. Dessie Bisbee Hunt was the wife of Judge Nathan P. Hunt. She was an early suffragette and was associated with Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony in that movement in Kansas in 1866 and 67. Her daughter Agnes, who was also buried here, was a history professor at Smith College. She wrote an essay on the perils of pigeonholes. I highly, highly recommend it. It's way ahead of its time, and it deals with how people tend to pigeonhole other people. And she destroys that argument totally, and it's a wonderful, wonderful essay. You can get it at the Historic Association. It dealt with a mistake people make by pigeonholing other people during their lifetime. Mrs. Hunt's son, Samuel P. Hunt, was the donor of Hunt's Pool on Maple Street. And even today, there's a Samuel P. Hunt Foundation that continues to give philanthropically to the city of Manchester. Mrs. Hunt's poem, which we will read today, was written in June 1879. Its title was, Why?
Why, by Dessie Bisbee Hunt. Oh, why such a desolate moaning? Oh, why is humanity sad? The birds sing from morn till the gloaming. They sing and are happy and glad. The sunbeams are dancing in gladness. The flowers, oh, so lovingly woo. But man sighs away in his sadness, with hardly a joy that is true. The brooklets are dimpled with laughter. The grasses bend low in their play. But the stream of our mass, winding after, goes sorrowing all the long day. Humanity's stream, growing wider, goes on a funeral train. Each has an invisible rider who holds an invisible rein. Oh, why mid the works of creation should man be the saddest of all? Or since the earth had its foundation, his tears so unceasingly fall. Thank you.
We're at the beautiful monument of Alonzo Elliot, known by one and all as simply as Zoe Elliot. A composer and songwriter born in Manchester in 1891, he was educated at St. Paul's School in Concord, Phillips Exeter Academy, and Yale University. His best-known song is There's a Long, Long Trail A-Winding, and it sold over 5 million pieces of sheet music worldwide. Composed in 1913, he couldn't even find a publisher in this country. At the end of that year, a publishing house in London, England, took a chance on it. Its sales figures there were bleak, but it was the outbreak of World War I that caused its sales to skyrocket. It set up those mystical emotions of homesickness that clutch at the hearts of the soldiers. And before long, millions of men in khaki were singing it. The unknown was ahead. Would they ever see her again? That is to say, would they ever see their wife or their sweetheart, or the one that had slipped through their fingers? Would they ever get a second chance to woo her again? At the end of the long, long trail leading to the land of our dreams. We will now hear the song sung by Ed Doyle.
Nights are growing very lonely, days are very long. I'm a growing weary only, listening for your song. Old remembrances are thronging through my memory, till it seems the world is full of dreams, just to call you back to me. There's a long, long trail a-winding into the land of my dreams, where the nightingales are singing and the white moon beams. There's a long, long trail of waiting until my dreams all come true, till the day when we'll be going down that long, long trail with you.
The stone has, there's a long, long trail of winding.
Yeah.
Remember that.
It's right here on the stone. We're at the gravesite of Thomas W. Lane. Thomas W. Lane served on the Manchester Fire Department for 53 years. He began in 1864 and he retired in 1917, becoming chief in 1879. When he began, hand tubs were used, then horse-drawn steam fire engines, and lastly, to motors run by gasoline. So he saw it all. The poem, To the Chief, will be read today and was written for his retirement party on May 1st, 1917. And Gail York will read that verse.
To the chief. From the rock-ribbed hills of our old granite state, some very fine men have sprung. They have made themselves felt all over our land, and praises for them have been sung. And I sing now of a New Hampshire boy who's well known from Texas to Maine. As you have guessed, 'tis our esteemed chief, Thomas Waterman Lane. 'Twas up in Hooksett he first saw the light. Maybe I'll let that go by. And there his youth was spent. And when he'd learned all they knew in that town, to the Pembroke Academy he went. His schooling was very soon over, and in 1861 he left his home and came down here and worked to the place of fun. He found a job with the Mirror, but not long there he stayed, for he couldn't like the inside work and he didn't care for a trade. After he left the Mirror, a bookstore from Coburn he bought, but soon he found he was out of place. In other fields he sought. Since '64 until tonight, our fires he has been fighting, doing his best wherever found, never a duty slighting. In 1879, he assumed the office of chief. He has guided the firemen ever since then and has never come to grief. He first went to fires on horseback. Then with a wagon he showed great speed, but he wanted something faster, so now the auto supplies his needs. All kinds of machines for fighting fires our chief in his time has seen, hand tubs and horse-drawn steam engines to motors with gasoline. The firefighting science the chief has down pat. He was taught in Experience College. And every fire ladder in the city's employ owes Chief Lane for most of his knowledge. Many have aspired in times gone by to seat themselves in his place, but he just sat tight and wore a big smile. And every time he has led the race. A new position now he is taking. No more he'll lead us, as in the days of yore. Our hearts are full as we wish him well. We love him. God bless him. Who could say more?
Fletcher. Lisa Ann Fletcher was an invalid for 40 years. She was stricken in 1865, 1 year after her marriage, with malignant diphtheria. From then on, until her death, she was confined mostly to her bed. But that didn't stop her. She painted the wildflowers of Manchester, which included over 700 species. Those paintings, if I may say, are all viewable by going to the research library on Amherst and Pine Street of the Manchester Historic Association. We had an exhibit, I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago, of her paintings. But she was also a poet, and she became widely known for her sweet, unaffected verses that appealed to thousands who knew nothing of her sad story. She contributed regularly to 30 newspapers and magazines. Today, Gail York will recite her poem titled Sometimes.
Sometimes midst the deepest shadows, suddenly there falls the light. Sometimes, when the heart is sorest, suddenly a flower blooms bright. Sometimes, when the rain falls fastest, suddenly a sweet bird sings. Sometimes, when the hour is dreariest, suddenly a joy upsprings. Sometimes we are most despairing, suddenly hope's refreshing dew. Sometimes when the clouds hang lowest, suddenly there shines the blue. By Lisa Fletcher. And what an optimist she was. I applaud her. Thank you.
We are at the grave site right now of Elijah Monroe Tubbs. Elijah Tubbs was the man who built the Goodwin Funeral Home in June 1873 as his home. He contracted with George Hawthorne, a New York architect, to build what was described by the newspaper as a, quote, Swiss cottage style, end quote. That was what the building was called by the paper. Mr. Tubbs practiced dentistry for 29 years, but his fortune was made by selling rings, vegetable ambrosia. It was not uncommon around 1890, 1900 for pharmacies to sell cures for baldness. We would look upon that today as a quack remedy, but still we have Rogaine today and other remedies that I have heard about but never tried. It was a cure for baldness, and at the same time it would turn gray hair, if that's all you had left, into beautiful dark hair. It was a miracle. It was a quack remedy. Today we are going to read a humorous verse that Mr. Tubbs used in advertising his cure for baldness. Gail York will read it.
This is the cure that lay in the ambrosia ring made. This is a man who was bald and gray, who now has raven locks, they say. He used the cure that lay in the ambrosia that ring made. This is the maiden, handsome and gray, who married the man, once bald and gray, who now has raven locks, they say. He used the ambrosia that ring made. This is the parson, who, by the way, married the maiden, handsome and gray, to the man once bald and gray, but who now has raven locks, they say, because he used the cure that lay in the ambrosia that ring made. This is the bell that rings away to arouse the people, sad and gray, unto this fact which here does lay, if you could not be bald and gray, use the ambrosia that ring made.
That's good.
Dick has been a faithful user of Ring's Hair Restorer for many, many years. And today he's going to show you the results of the hair restorer.
That's right. That'll actually be a charge for that. It cost me a fortune. There you go. You are looking at the grave site of Clara Heath. Clara Heath was one of Manchester's most prolific poets. Her book of poems, titled Water Lilies, was published in 1881 and contained 225 poems. Her first poem was written during the Civil War and continued until her death in 1911. So she wrote poems essentially for 30 years. It was estimated that during her lifetime she wrote over 300 poems. The poem we will recite today about this cemetery is titled At Pine Grove and was written in December 1899. It will now be read by Gail York.
At Pine Grove. Sad thoughts come to us in this sacred place, for some lie here who were to us akin. And through these dusky aisles with solemn pace, each morning train comes in. Perhaps a widow in her loneliness, bringing the loved one she had thought her own. Sad-eyed and silent in her somber dress, she stands today alone. The husband brings a wife of many years. White are his locks. His step is weak and slow. The fountain seems all empty of the tears his grief should cause to flow. Here pass the children by their mother's side. No more she answers though they cry and call. They have been born in love and reared in pride. That's mother's all in all. What silence is it that she cannot break to bring them comfort as in days gone by? What sleep is this from which she does not wake to hush her frightened cry? Perhaps a mother brings a little child whose head was often pillowed on her own breast. What place is this, she questions, worn and wild, for my loved one to rest? It seems so fitting that the old should die when life no longer to a hope gives birth. Rest must we welcome, though, with tear and sigh. We give them back to earth. But why the little graves so often met in every city of the silent dead, where childless ones look down with faces wet or pass with noiseless dread? O vanished hands that never clasp our own, O silent hearts that never throb to ours, with you the freshness of a life has flown, the brightness of its flowers. Sometimes it seems the angels must weep, if they can ever weep, who know no sin, when through these dusky aisles in sorrow deep, a funeral train comes in. The shadows interlock, the sun is low. Deep silence hovers over grave and wood, but through the pines the breeze come and go, and whisper, God is good, by Clara Heath. What's that? Thank you.
I'm at the gravesite of Abraham F. Emerson. Abraham Emerson was known as Manchester's banker poet. He was vice president of the Merrimack River Savings Bank, and he wrote a book of poetry containing poems of his native town, Candia, and also Manchester, and some of Rock Rimmon, Massabesic Lake, and one of his better poems was Manchester, which we will recite here today. It will now be recited by Gail York.
Manchester. It is a queenly city and over a wide domain. By solid worth and beauty has ample right to reign. Within a pleasant valley, itself beyond compare, among New Hampshire cities, 'tis fairest of the fair. Its giant mills and factories have won its great renown, and unashamed it calls itself a manufacturing town. But worth and beauty must unite to form a product rare, and so our city seeks to be the fairest of the fair. Not long ago the Indian roamed, where now the city stands, and by the falls at Amoskeag met many roving bands. Men hunted for the deer and fox, the panther and the bear, where stand our model factories, the fairest of the fair. The founders of our city, the pioneers of trade, grappled with many problems and strong foundations laid. Who dare to face an evil and track it to its lair will help to make our city the fairest of the fair. Masters of fate have taught us we form a true idea of men who make a city great, who lay devoid of fear. Foundations that will long endure, and men who do and dare will toil to make our city the fairest of the fair. With eager heart and purpose, and courage born of might, the present fronts the future, and arms itself to fight. All foes of human progress, all powers that do not care to make our city beautiful, the fairest of the fair. But all who value merit and understand the worth of staple goods and trademarks well known throughout the earth will seek to lend a helping hand and have a modest share in making our good city the fairest of the fair. Thank you.
We've got 3 more stops. We should be done by noontime. What we're going to do is follow up that road. Just take your time. If you're out of breath, just take your time.
This is the one you do, I think, if my memory serves me right. This is in the Sweet By and By here, coming up, I believe. Isn't this Garvin?
Garvin.
Yeah. Okay. Want to get closer, Ed? No, Ed is going to be.
He's getting this pitch.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm standing at the gravesite right now of Harry Garvin. So very little is known of the 20 years of the life of Harry Garvin, other than that his father was a milk dealer in the Youngsville section of Candia Road. His elaborate funeral and his burial at this gravesite is enough reason for us to pause here. The full choir of the Franklin Street Church, now called the Brookside Church on Elm Street, the full choir was present here in 1890. As his remains were slowly lowered into the grave, the choir sang the beautiful hymn, "In the Sweet By and By." This world-famous song, translated into many languages, was written by Joseph P. Webster in 1868. Mr. Webster is a son of Manchester, born in 1820 near the shore of Lake Massabesic. In the Sweet By and By, familiar to all of you, I'm sure, will now be sung by Ed Doyle.
There's a land that is fairer than day, and by faith we can see it afar, for the Father waits over the way to prepare us a dwelling place there. In the sweet by and by we shall meet on that beautiful shore. In the sweet by and by we shall meet on that beautiful shore. We shall sing on that beautiful shore the melodious songs of the blessed, and our spirits shall sorrow no more. Not a sigh for the blessing of rest. In the sweet by and by we shall meet on that beautiful shore. In the sweet by and by we shall meet on that beautiful shore. To our bountiful Father above, we will offer our tribute of praise for the glorious gift of His love and the blessings that hallow our days. In the sweet by and by we shall meet on that beautiful shore. In the sweet by and by we shall meet on that beautiful shore.
just to say one more word about Joseph Webster, who wrote the music for this song. That music, written in 1868, is available even today on YouTube. It's been sung by Johnny Cash, by Elvis, but if you ever want to listen to the correct version, listen on YouTube to the Willie Nelson singing in a sweet by and by, and you'll hear something really wonderful. Joseph Webster also wrote, born here in Manchester, wrote the most popular sentimental song of the Civil War. It's a haunting song, like There's a Long, Long Trail of Winding. It was about homesickness and longing for the sweetheart and the wife back home. And it was called Lorena, L-O-R-E-N-A, Lorena. I recommend it. Written by a man born here in Manchester. We're here at the gravesite of Sumner F Claflin. The Claflin name I've known for probably 30 or 40 years because his home is located at the corner of Tarrytown Road and Nelson Street, on the northeast corner of Tarrytown Road and Nelson Street. In its day, it was a beautiful, beautiful, quaint little cottage. And if you squint a little bit as you look at it today, you can see exactly what it was when Manchester wasn't as built up as it is today. Sumner F Claflin ran for governor 4 times on the socialist ticket. He also ran for mayor, for Congress, and for national committee man. His life was really spent in the newspaper and magazine business, selling and distributing newspapers and magazines. But he was a very active man, and he was what is known as a true socialist. He was involved with the workers' movement group called the Wobblies. And the motto of this group is inscribed on his tombstone. You could see it if you got up close. And the motto was, "Workers of the World, Unite." He wrote wonderful, wonderful books. He wrote 4 or 5 of them. I have 3, and I can't put them down. At the time of his 64th birthday, there was a man named Dr. Osler going around the country saying that all men should be painlessly chloroformed at age 60. Now that's a progressive thought. Mr. Claflin said he was out to disprove that theory. He passed away himself in 1930 at the age of 68, so I guess he did disprove it. He is best known perhaps today as the author of 5 books and countless touching verses, many of which made their way into Manchester newspapers. We will read 2 of them today, and I'm going to ask Gail to read them.
Who believes in goblins? When you are rising 60, getting clumsy, slow and stout, the goblins will get you if you don't watch out. Oh, it's glorious in the morning. You can hear the rooster crow. Give yourself a rub in water that will make your old skin glow. Give your feet and toes once over. It will surely stop the gout, and the goblins won't get you. But you must watch out. Then you grab the dumbbells handy, hanging on the bathroom wall. They will keep you feeling dandy if you use them one and all. Half an hour to fit your body for daily tasks that come your way. You can eat 'em up, my lordy. Work is another name for play. So dear old buddies rising 60 and getting far too stout, don't let those goblins get you. Take my advice. Watch out. Okay. And now I'm going to read the second one. It's called The Land of Now. I dwell in the land of now, my friend. In the kingdom of love I abide. And each new day is beginning and end, and my soul is satisfied. The past I have given to God sealed up. The future I do not fear. For I always dwell in the land of now, in the kingdom of love, my dear. So when you come to the kingdom of love and dwell in the land of now, and hate no one and fear no one, you shall find me there, I vow. And God shall dwell with you in the land, and as he has from the days of old, in the land of now, in the kingdom of love, where wisdom is better than gold.
Beautiful stuff, beautiful stuff. He had a gift, there's no doubt about it. This is the last site that we're going to visit today. It's the grave site of Ray E. McDonald. In a contest for a New City song sponsored by the Union Leader newspaper in January 1948, for a $50 prize, the winner was Ray E. McDonald, a Manchester telephone company employee. His song was titled Manchester, My Manchester, and it was chosen as the winner. But the name of the song was changed to Song of Manchester. And we do not have the music to it, so I will read the words. This is the Song of Manchester. Far west of Rock Rimmon, far east of Oak Hill, from the north end of Union to south of Goff's Mill, the city we cherish has spread and still grows, the Queen of New Hampshire, through sun and through snows. Oh, Manchester the fairest, oh, Manchester our pride, we pledge to thee our loyalty, whatever may betide. While ours thy torch to carry, while ours thy work to do, our every thought shall be to give none but our best to you. A city of brothers, though called from afar, from lands of old empires or bonds of a czar. All creeds and all races, all men and all free, proud Manchester hails them, and they too hail thee. Well built by our fathers, with faith and with prayer, our sons and our daughters will find granted there, to build for the future when our days are through, a city yet better than ever we knew. So we thank you very much for today's tour, and I hope that you all enjoyed it. I'm going to turn this microphone over to Gail York for a word.
I want to thank you all. I'm a trustee of the Historic Association, and we really appreciate your coming out and enjoying this tour. We hope you did enjoy it. It's really wonderful things we're doing at the Historic Association, but we're also trying to link the past with the present and the future. So any support to our organization is always appreciated, and if you tell friends about us, we really appreciate that as well. We are a 501c3, so we do depend on kindness and givers and support. Again, you're here for this, but I just want you to help us be ambassadors and spread the word about our wonderful organization and the Millyard Museum. I did bring more membership forms if you know someone. It also is a great idea for someone from the city as a gift. I mean, I hate to think that Christmas is coming or holidays are coming, but it makes a great gift for someone to be give a membership to, the people you're not sure what to give, because it gives you a lot of chances to go to the museum on your own or to bring friends, and then you hear about all our great exhibits and get invited to opening nights. And the research center is fabulous too for those that are from the area to have that opportunity to learn more about your past. And again, I thank you. And one other thing, we also have, if any of you know a business in the area, sometimes people don't also realize all that. Not only do we preserve all of these wonderful artifacts, do walking tours, do exhibits, but we also have like real life expenses, like we all do at home. For example, our research center needs work on the windows. We have some cracked windows and things like that. So there's a lot of things that go beyond what we even see. Even keeping temperatures right for our artifacts and so forth. So any support or any spreading of the word we appreciate. If you know a business that may be interested in supporting us, they do get perks, like they get to have some meetings in our space and so forth and so on, and or membership forms. So if you'd like to take one, please come and see me when we're done. And we're done, I guess, right? Thank you. Thank you.
Again, thank you for coming. I'm going to turn this over to John Jordan, and he can give you the directions for finding our way out. Back to the car.
Yeah, that's it.
Just take the road up here that goes this way, heading north. Follow it right to the end, and when you get to the end, take your right, and you'll see your cars up in that area.
Thank you.